Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the... Okay, I'm going to get this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Slingshot, a podcast by levies.org. Our mission is to have commentary and conversation about the latest global events that are important to you, the listener. Today, we're going to be talking about the presidential election and then moving on, even though they're not posted in the studio, the 10 Commandments. You all know me, Sandy Rosenthal, and joining me, and I'm so very excited and honored to have him here, is Mr. Harry Shearer, actor, producer and director of The Big Uneasy, in addition to many other things, and also with us is Mr. Rudy Vorkapic. Rudy's done many things, but he's probably most well known for his hilarious satirical newspaper, The Levy. We hold nothing back. So, Harry, you've been talking a lot on social about the presidential election. Mm-hmm. And I thought we would begin today's discussion with you and let us know how you feel about it.
Well, also on my radio show slash podcast as well. I've been in and around politics for a long time. When I was a kid, I had a year on the staff of a legislative committee in Sacramento, so I kind of have seen that world closer up than one would care to. It's like, you know, if you have a job as a janitor in a slaughterhouse, you don't necessarily want to be going back there all the time. But one of the things that it taught me, and I'm relearning it watching the aftermath of that election, is the business of strategists and consultants and how they flood the zone with analysis and postmortems that key in on little insights about, oh, somebody made this mistake and somebody made that mistake. And I think it's way too many trees and no forest. The forest to me is really clear, and it may offend some people if I say it, but I think it's, as Henry Kissinger once said in another context, it has the added advantage of being true. Donald Trump has run 3 times. He ran against a man and lost. He ran against 2 women and won. That's got to tell you something. The Democratic Party achieved something really great and historic with the presidency of Barack Obama, and the United States of America never makes steps forward without backlash. And we've been living with the backlash of the Obama presidency, the right-wing backlash against, oh my God, look what we did, for the succeeding years. And the Democratic Party has insisted on going, no, we're going to make history again. And everybody knows the dictionary definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again with expecting a different result. I thought she did a great job. I thought it was an almost errorless campaign. I thought her appearance on The View was mistaken. She was clearly, Harris I'm talking about, clearly inhibited by her loyalty to Joe Biden from saying, well, here's how I would do it. I would have done it differently. And I thought that was a mistake. But you look at as the numbers are coming in, this is not a huge landslide. There's 240,000 votes nationwide. And there's just a number of people, including some women, who don't want yet to vote for a woman president. Now, it's embarrassing, it's shocking. There's a woman president in Mexico, for goodness sake. Israel, India, UK, all over the world we have women prime ministers and presidents. But we're so advanced. Not us yet. We have women governors, we have women mayors.
I saw that one of your posts was it'll be a century
yes.
before the Democrats nominate a woman again.
Well, I think so.
To run for president.
I think so, because they're so burned. But I mean, you look at those 2 figures, the election he lost and the elections he won, and you can only draw that conclusion. And yet you have, as I say, the media zone flooded with these people, oh, if she should have gone on Joe Rogan. Oh, Hillary should have gone to Michigan. This. And it's all tactics and logistics and basically ways of proving to the world, oh, I'm worth it to be a consultant. You should hire me for your campaign.
And we haven't even mentioned the polls.
Well, excuse me. There are such damning statistics and figures on the polls. I was involved about 10 years ago with a woman who used to be famous, Arianna Huffington, and we had a project called Project for a Poll-Free America. And it was there that I first learned that the response rate on polls now is like between 2 and 5%.
Wow.
They're calling it dinner time. Who answers the phone at dinner time? It's telemarketers that are going to be.
I love the idea that I still have not met anyone who has taken part in one.
No. But that's, the response rate is one thing. What the polling organizations do is another. They are going to have certain demographic cohorts that they are not fairly representing with the numbers they've got. So they do weighting. So they're screwing with the numbers based on what?
Well, herding, I'm sure you've heard the term the herding.
Sure. But, the problem is the media are being denuded of personnel. Reporters are being fired. It's much cheaper to have a couple of people sitting around with a magic wall doing numbers of dubious variety.
I agree. Rudy, let's talk about that for just a moment. So what about the fact that, 500,000 people dropped their subscription with the Washington Post? Okay, so let's talk, was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Look, I was involved in mainstream media for a long time. I was a reporter and an editor in Chicago for years before I came down here, and I moved down here for the same reason guys move here from someplace else. There was this girl, and then I freelanced here, and then after Hurricane Katrina, I started up the Levy because former Speaker of the House Dennis Hastert, whom we were talking about earlier, decided after Katrina that he was going to start announcing that he didn't think New Orleans, a great American city like New Orleans, should be rebuilt. Well, okay, so then I started this media project. Now, getting back to that, about media, one of the issues about being able to do this and being able to sit at any time and broadcast anywhere also means a dilution of the content, because you can't have the standard that you might have with a smaller number of outlets when you spread them out over a gigantic number. So you have opinions everywhere, but facts are few and far between. I like to say that people complain that that we might be living in a simulation. It feels like we're living in a simulation, and the point being that if perception has become reality, are we not living in a simulation?
I have a friend on this subject. I have a friend.
I'll get back to media too.
Well, I'm getting back to media. I have a friend who works for a major television network news department, and she says, with all of the cutbacks and firings and so forth, a once storied name in television news is now being run by people who've come up from local news. Not people who've been in Washington, not people who've been in New York, not people who've been covering national and international stories, but people who've been covering fires and car accidents. And the daily calendar meeting at that news department now starts with the reading of Chartbeat, a publication which enumerates mentions in social media. That's where we're at.
And it's absolutely true. You were talking about the politicos too, all of the influence of everyone who's making a dollar off of everything, off of all of the politics. Well, in my humble opinion, and I'll throw this out there, that Republicans began the issue of immigration some years ago as a way to take people's minds off of campaign finance reform, which used to be the #1 issue in this country.
I have another theory about that.
Hit me.
In the 1970s, two cohorts entered the workforce that had been prohibited from really competing before, women and African Americans. There was a history of them being paid less if they did get jobs. So suddenly young white men are competing not against each other, but against these other cohorts at a lower salary level than they had been used to. Mm-hmm. You can't criticize that in modern America. Immigrants are code.
Well said. Well said. And I was going to, and in that vein too. Oh shoot! I forgot. I skipped what I was
That's okay,
gonna
but
say.
I did have something I wanted to jump in with. I did feel like this country took a hit with those 500,000 people unsubscribing from the Washington Post. We need all of our media. I'm not saying all of them are perfect, but we need a lot of media out there. Remember, New Orleans used to have 2 newspapers. Okay.
2 crappy newspapers.
But at least there were 2.
Yeah.
And so that is that. Did it send a message? Yes. Is that good for this country? No.
Well, you know, how do you choose who to watch? How do you choose who to read? Mm-hmm. When I'm looking at a broadcast outlet, I want opposition. I want someone who's one side and the other side, and let them talk about it. 2 people of equal value who can speak intelligently to one another. If an outlet is only giving you one person with that person's opinion,
Fox News.
then that's a scam. Then that's not journalism, that's propaganda. And so you need to have balance, and not just as a slogan. You have to have balance.
I'm going to dissent from you in one thing. When I look at media, and I'm being, in a way, critical of what we're doing here right now, I don't want to see, if I'm looking at a journalistic media, this is commentary, but if I'm looking at a journalistic medium, print or broadcast, I want to see reporting.
First and foremost.
I started out my life working in journalism and reporting. I know what it is. I know what it looks like. You're leaving the studio. You're going out into the real world. You're observing something real. You're coming back, assembling a version of it, so hopefully a truthful version, and presenting that to the public. The studio is only the place where you sit and introduce it. That's not where the journalism is happening. The journalism is happening in that other part of your life. They're being fired. The people I was talking about a moment ago in that newsroom seem to elide opinionating, which is what social media is, with reporting, which is what their job is. So nobody on social media is sending out reporters to cover stories. They're not reporters, they're repeaters.
Right.
Good one. They're not reporters, they're repeaters.
Yeah.
Good one.
Well, you know, even when I was doing The Levy, it's a satirical newspaper, but I have a journalism background as well. So everything that I wrote in that publication, every single word, was fact-based, news-checked, and run by different folks who gave opinions over what I was reporting as well. So it was all fact-based.
That's the way the system was supposed to work.
Sure.
I have a great story, and I'll stop hypothesizing about all this. I had a friend who was the host of Meet the Press for a while. And one Sunday morning I woke up and he opened the program with this. Good morning. We have a breaking news story today in Pakistan. And for the latest, we go to NBC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel reporting today from London. Like you can see Pakistan from London. It's a Potemkin village. They fired all those people. It looks the same out front, you know, the fancy desk and the well-dressed anchor. But back behind the scenes, now it's changed a little bit with, I think, post-pandemic, they've staffed up again a little bit. But it's really, there aren't the people to do the reporting.
Right.
That's
what I keep hearing.
Yeah, they cost money.
We don't have the reporting.
Well, you know, I think that I've said this for a long time, but there's a reason why broadcast outlets call their news shows. Shows.
Right on the money.
Not reports.
Yep, not programs.
Shows.
They never used that word CBS when Edward R. Murrow was
Absolutely
there.
not.
It was verboten.
Sir,
Yep.
absolutely.
A forbidden
Without
word.
question.
So before we move on to the next topic, I wanted to give a little bit of a wrap up to the first one, which is the presidential election. So Harry, you said you think it'll be a century before the Democrats nominate a woman again. So
I think the Republicans will nominate a woman before the Democrats.
Very likely.
so and you really think it boiled down to that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think, and the danger is that all of this other kind of hypothesizing about the results lead to all sorts of angry, discriminatory, critical words about the population and what it does and doesn't want. And if you, again, now go back to these stupid polls, and you poll them on all these issues, they were pretty much in favor of all the issues the Democrats were proposing. There was one thing they weren't in favor of.
And so what this did is it put focus on the wrong thing. Put focus on the wrong thing.
Let me throw out a little bit of semi-opposition.
Okay.
I felt that Kamala Harris actually ended up running a weak campaign.
Really?
I think she started out, had all the momentum, started out when she introduced her economic plan, and it was about price gouging. I was very disappointed when she didn't get on Trump every single day and rebut all of the silliness that was coming out of his mouth. Should have been there every single day, but she made the same speech every single day, just someplace else.
She did that.
And I found that what she did here is what she did in the campaign when she was running against Biden, when she was running for the presidency the first time, is that she started out hot, had the momentum, and then her message trailed off. And that's how I felt about this time, unfortunately.
Yeah. I
was in favor of her calling him President Tubby every day, just to aggravate him.
Well, they did a few things to aggravate him. This gets now into consultant speak, but I mean, do you want to spend your campaign focusing on the opponent or on yourself?
Right, and I always found that if you're dealing with a bully, you can never negotiate with a bully.
That's true.
You can never, ever do anything but stand up to that bully.
Except,
So when we go high and low,
yes,
unfortunately, bullies drag you low.
Except he's a particular kind of bully, this will be my one last, who craves attention.
Yes, sir.
And I think one of the things they thought they might be doing is depriving him of attention.
Perhaps.
One thing for sure, a spectacular moment for Kamala was when she said the words, "Nobody goes to his rallies." I don't think.
Yeah, well, that was.
Boy, did that work.
And that's just it.
I wish she'd have done that every day.
And the thing that really got her traction and got them both traction was weird.
Oh, sure. They dropped that early.
Right, and then they dropped it.
Yeah.
But that's where you needed to be, unfortunately, with a guy who treats people that badly.
Well, that's where you needed to be if you were fighting normalization.
Cheers.
So with that, I think it's time to move along to our second topic of today's episode. I'm not going to use the word show anymore. And that is posting the 10 Commandments in public spaces, such as classrooms, such as federal buildings, etc. And in Louisiana right now, which I suppose you would call the leading state on posting, yeah, lucky us, lucky Louisiana. We
might add a
live
few.
in New Orleans here.
Might lead in something.
Currently, there is the governor of Louisiana, Governor Landry, wants the 10 Commandments to be posted in every classroom, every public classroom in the state of Louisiana. And where are we exactly with that now? Currently, it's blocked.
A court order is
a court
stated.
order blocked, but it's not over.
No.
May I say, just as an aside, I refer to our governor, Jeff Landry, as Governor Flanders. And not just because, I mean,
locally, Miss Neighbor.
That's who we've got.
Yeah.
That's who we've got. We've got Governor Flanders, and he's out there every day thumping a Bible and just thumping it right over our heads. And yeah, my daughter is in public schools here in New Orleans, and she's in French immersion, and I just imagine them having the Ten Commandments in French. And yeah, just as an aside. But yeah, it's been proposed. A federal judge has blocked it. And it's headed to the Supreme Court where anything can happen, and Louisiana is the test kitchen for the Ten Commandments, and and if it passes here, it's going to pass everywhere. You know?
Not in California.
Not in California, but
Yeah.
in every state that
In every red
the
state.
shades red.
Yeah, right. Look, we're in the middle of a long, I shouldn't start a sentence with look. We're in the middle of a long battle between secularism and Christian nationalism. That's what's been going on in this country for a long time. We're in the latest iteration of it here. The Ten Commandments belongs to two religions, of which we have several. It's basically a way of saying, those of you who believe in Islam or Hinduism or anything, you don't matter because our sacred text is what rules.
Or we choose not to believe.
Which we don't,
That's their right.
which we don't, behave according to. Last I looked at Matt Gaetz, but and it's a huge battle, and nobody really wants to confront it on the larger. I mean, the details of should we post these posters in a classroom is an easier one to deal with than are we a Christian nation or are we a nation of many beliefs and everyone's free to believe what they want and the government doesn't interfere?
I think that's a good point. I still think we should fight those Ten Commandments, though.
Sure.
Well, we've also got our, like I said, Governor Flanders, who touts the Ten Commandments, but then supports his presidential pick, who has broken about 16 of the Ten Commandments. So,
and counting.
but it's a cha-ching machine.
Yeah.
It's you propose the Ten Commandments and you watch your political coffers swell.
The criticism that we received, so I am obviously against the Ten Commandments being shown in classroom.
Why do you hate Jesus? Why do you hate Jesus?
We're leaving. Let's go, Harry.
Yeah.
So one of the proponents, who is actually a state legislator in Louisiana, her response was, "Well, don't look. Just tell the kids, don't look at them."
Well,
So-
that could be Matt Gaetz' response too.
Cheers. I was going to
Don't
say.
look.
Don't
But then
look.
again, I'm not saying I disagree with this, but also the state of Louisiana has put age restrictions on porn sites. Wouldn't that fall into the same category? Just don't look.
Yeah.
Just don't look.
Yeah.
And then with something we might have all forgotten because the attention hasn't been focused on it, and if the media's not on it, no one's on it, and that is the statues. And Louisiana, the state of New Orleans, the city of New Orleans may have led, partly through Mitch Landrieu, the mayor at that time, the momentum to relocate statues that could be viewed as offensive. In other
Confederate
words,
statues.
Confederate statues that could be viewed as offensive.
Yeah.
Not to dynamite them.
Well,
Not to, because that would have been destroying history.
Nitroglycerin would work too.
yeah. Don't look.
Don't
But
look.
well, you stole my thunder. That
sorry.
That was the point I was getting to. No one ever said, "Well, just tell your children don't look at the statue, this gigantic statue right there on
Lee Circle.
on Lee Circle.
Yeah.
Just don't look at it." And they were all over the place.
Yeah.
There were lots of statues getting moved.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And then a opponent of relocating them would say, "Well, we're destroying history." To which I said, "Oh, how are they destroying it? With a jackhammer? How are they destroying it?" And well, no. All we were saying is relocate them to a more appropriate place. But no, the don't look is not going to work.
Well, sure. And that's like I was driving when Lee was still up on the pedestal. I was driving around Lee Circle with my in-laws, and they are from the Delta of Mississippi. So my mother-in-law was extolling the virtues of that statue. I was telling her the story of him and that statue and how it was put up illegally, and there was never a permit, and it's just a bunch of people who, not of good intent, went up, they built it and had him pointing to the north as if to give, flipping the old bird.
Yeah.
And she was of the don't look
Well,
audience.
I'm one of those people who thinks that the South won the Civil War. The North gave up with Reconstruction halfway through, and the South, you had during Reconstruction a mass of new people coming into legislatures and other offices of government in the South, and that was too much for the South, and they pulled economic pressure on the North, and the North said, oh, okay, forget about that, and we're living with the consequences of that. The thing I learned when we were having all those discussions about statues was when they were built. They weren't built at the end of the Civil War. They were built in the middle or the end of Reconstruction to go, no, we don't. Very big difference.
Absolute.
It's lots and lots of books have been written on that subject. There's even a large faction that talks about how harsh it was on the plantation owners when they had to just release everybody.
They got reparations. Slave owners got reparations.
That is not a well-known piece of
Slave
information.
owners got paid for the loss of their property.
That
both
is
here,
not well known.
Both here and in Britain. How about
Who
that?
invited you?
I'm not doubting you at all because you're extremely well read. That's why I invited you to be here
Thank
today. That is not well known, and I'm really glad to hear about that because as awful as slavery was, and it was and is still going on today, is the landowners to just be the plantation owners, and everyone who had slaves. I really thought they were all just left to struggle. That was my understanding. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then as soon as slavery ended, Jim Crow started.
Well, something else started too.
Sure.
That there's a wonderful book called Slavery by Another Name by a guy named, I think his name is John Freeman at the University of North Carolina. And it revealed something I didn't know, which was in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War, southern states passed all of these don't be black laws, if you're sundown laws and stuff like that. And people who violated those laws, rather than being imprisoned, southern states didn't want to spend the money to build prisons. They contracted them out to the newly burgeoning mills and manufacturing operations in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. And those companies, when the people came to the end of their terms, of their sentences, went, oh, you violated Rule 58 of the thing, and kept them basically for life.
Yes.
Wow.
This persisted until World War II.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm sadly familiar.
yeah, but I mean, the stuff about this country's history that is unknown could fill a major library.
And I just learned another thing today, and that's why Levy.org was started. The whole world would think it was just a bad storm.
Yep.
Had it not been for the work that we all did together. But back to the Ten Commandments. I guess.
What's your favorite commandment?
I was raised Catholic. I
Yeah.
ought to be able to recite them all. But I can say this though. Catholic school scared me.
Oh my God.
Catholic school and catechism on Sunday. We had to kneel on wooden kneelers. They were wooden, and we had to kneel on it with on my bony little knees. So, and here I am today, saying we shouldn't have the Ten Commandments up. But it isn't about being Catholic or Jewish. It's about being free to worship as you please. And so.
And pardon me. The battle is really joined because Christian nationalists say that the separation of church and state is a myth. They say that. They say that in their publications and in their speeches, and that needs to be confronted more than it is.
When was the statement made?
All over all the time.
But
All the
don't forget, these are the same people that are worried about rewriting history.
Yes. History is written by the winners last time I looked.
That's the last, absolutely. And so we're in for a major rewrite.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would like to add, Harry or Rudy, on either topic of today?
God bless us all.
Yeah, let's see, there's no one left to covet politically. Just trying
I think, I say this to my friends who are very dark about where we're going in the moment, and I would just say, we lived through an administration that started 2 wars based on lies and a regime of torture. We've been in the darkness before. We can get out of this.
I love that. I have my little thing to end with, but you first, Rudy.
I was talking with a friend, and might be a little bit deep at the end, but I was talking with a friend, and he sent a note. He's an older gentleman, and he was talking about, he used to work for the State Department, and he was in East Germany. He sent a note about what he thinks is going on. And just let me share these words with you, okay? Early in my years at the state, I was assigned to West Germany during the Cold War, working on the legal dimensions of Germany's post-war division. We spent a lot of time reading cables from U.S. embassies in Soviet bloc countries, including East Germany, that speculated on why there wasn't more popular resistance to those regimes. This was before Gorbachev arrived on the scene and the ice began to melt. One phenomenon in East Germany was called innere emigration. I got that wrong. Literally internal emigration, not immigration, but internal emigration. What it meant was that people withdrew from political life because the apparatus of state repression was so pervasive, and that the prospects for change seemed so dim, and instead focused on their personal lives and relationships. There's a similar sentiment in the U.S. now, and I have some sympathy for it. Of course, the U.S., even under Trump too, will by no means compare to the East Germany. So we all need to have a degree of engagement.
Yeah, and that's what the Russian people have been doing for the last few years as well.
Exactly. And I remember this feeling kind of like when Reagan. I remember kind of regressing and saying, well, this is what it is, and let's see how this ends up.
Yeah, but engagement is really, we're still in a society that needs our participation.
Without question. That's the foundation of it. I couldn't agree more.
And on that note, I think AI is going to save us.
Oh, no. That's another show.
We'll have to do another show on that.
Yeah.
But I believe AI will not only save America, but save the world. But we'll discuss that on another show.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Harry, and thank you, Rudy, for joining me today.
Thank you, Sandy.
It's been a lot of fun.
Pleasure, Harry.
And thank you, the listeners, for joining us. Please rate, like, and subscribe to this podcast, The Slingshot, on all of your favorite platforms. And thank you for being with us. Till next time.